Welcome to the Future of Medicine podcast. My name is Dr. Aaron Wenzel, and my hope is simple, that this show helps you along your journey to become the healthiest, strongest, and most vibrant version of you. This podcast is brought to you by Brentwood MD. Brentwood MD is located in Nashville, Tennessee, and provides best-in-class concierge primary care. Learn more about our innovative approach to primary care at brentwoodmd.com. Hey everybody, on this episode of the Future of Medicine podcast, we are turning the tables a little bit and putting Jen Justice in charge. She's going to basically dive into all of the chapters of my new book, 90 is the New 60, a physician's guide to feeling great and living a long time. I'm really excited to release it to the world. I hope people will find it useful. And this is the first time, actually, that I have been interviewed about it. And it was a great conversation. I hope you enjoy.
Hey, Dr. Wenzel.
Hey, Jen.
It's so great to be here with you today.
Yeah.
I am particularly excited about this podcast because you are an author. You wrote a book.
I did. Kind of secretly.
Yeah. And it's called 90 is the New 60. And I'm excited to interview you today about the book.
I'm excited and a little bit nervous about being interviewed.
No, there's nothing to be nervous about. Although
right.
I love this format more because I get to interview you. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, it's a change in roles for
fun.
sure.
So tell me, let's talk a little bit about what sparked your idea to write the book. What was the motivation behind it? Was there something in particular that said, I need to write a book?
I mean, if I said there was never a part of my brain that wanted to write a book, I don't know that would be totally truthful, but it wasn't a huge bucket list item for me. I think it has been developing in the background of my mind as I create more content and I share more of my thoughts, and those thoughts become more and more refined and more impactful. I think it started to become clear that this was a logical step for me, both personally and professionally, to have one place where all of my best thoughts, my most impactful experiences, all are living in one place. Mm-hmm. To come in at, near halftime and kind of at 50 and being a physician almost 20 years and just comprehensively consolidate all of these experiences and ideas and thoughts into one place, mm-hmm. As a way to kind of honor my journey and things that I have found useful and that have stood the test of time, mm-hmm. things that I'm most intrigued and fascinated and excited about for the future to give to the world in a single place in 180 pages and something that you could read in a weekend. Mm-hmm. It just felt like a project that I needed to complete for myself. But yeah, that's kind of the background.
That's great. I love that. So you and I have been connected through Brentwood MD for 10 years, and I've watched you build it from the ground up, which has been super inspiring and fulfilling for me as well. But how has working so closely with our members shaped what you believe is possible for someone's health at any age? So when I turned 50, which will be 4 years ago now, I kind of freaked out a little bit, and you were like, no, we're going to make the best half, the back half the best half. Mm-hmm. And that really stuck with me because I'm like, yeah, this is totally possible. Mm-hmm. For me, turning 50 and being a little freaked out about it. But for somebody that's, before 50, after 50, what do you believe is possible for them?
I, like most people, had an idea about what was possible based on what I saw. Mm-hmm. And we tend to, as a species, identify patterns and things that are common and just assume that's the way that it is. I think it's my total patient experience, what each individual patient I have ever cared for over the last almost 20 years has taught me, not just the Brentwood MD patients. Specifically, I think spending 13 years in the ER full-time, seeing thousands of deaths and hundreds of ways to die, recognizing that while there were certainly accidents, the majority of the suffering, the true suffering that I saw and the death seemed avoidable or delayable. Certainly delayable at the most basic level. And many times, like, gosh, like this could have totally been avoided had we had this person had more access, more knowledge, more speed to a diagnosis, more speed to a team, more speed to a treatment, which really kind of set the stage for what would it look like? What would it have looked like for this individual person had they had that ability to avoid this incident? And then when you start stacking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of those experiences, you start asking questions like, well, there's a cluster of things that tend to take people off the earth. And then when you look at the epidemiology and the data as to everybody who dies, like how do people die? And you look at the top 10 killers of humans, 7 of the top 10 are rooted in metabolic disease. Insulin resistance, diabetes. It's like, well, if you could avoid those or delay those 20, 30 years, what else will get you? And what ends up happening is that, well, if you don't have a heart attack and you don't have a stroke, or, you don't develop diabetes, and you can, if you're going to have cancer, you find it super early so that it's like a scary thing that happens, but then you get through it. You start running out of things that kill you. And I started thinking, well, gosh, wouldn't that be cool if like we could just reorient the top 10 killers of humans and really start reducing the amount of people who are falling into these buckets, because it seemed avoidable or at least delayable many times. And, that bedrock of kind of experience then moving into our practice, where we got to do medicine on the other end of the spectrum, where I wasn't the emergency room where people come in crisis. I was being charged with helping people map out a very strategic and thoughtful health future, in large part to avoid the ER, to avoid the hospital, and how do we delay these things. On the front end of the equation, it just gave me a really interesting perspective. Having so much of the end already in my vault of my mind to help people in their current state try to avoid many of the common reasons people end up in the emergency room or the hospital, or having a tragic outcome. And I think all of these things start compounding, and you start asking questions like, I mean, if we got lucky, is it possible we could add a decade? Well, I think we could. Well, I mean, if you added a decade, could you add 2 decades? Could you add 3? And would it be worth it? And oh my gosh, like I really feel like this is possible. Are there other examples of mammals who live beyond 100? Is it possible to live 200 years? Like if you run out of things that kill you and you can maintain a high level of strength, vitality, cognitive function, neurologic activity, you don't run out of food, you have safety. This is an interesting thought exercise, and it's kind of just evolved over the past several years into what I like to think of as just an actionable, let's push that graph up and out to the right. And that's really been, for the majority of the time we've been together, that's kind of been something that I'm interested in exploring the possibilities of. And I've just been developing conviction along the way.
I love, knowing you as long as I have, your background in the ER, to what you do now, how you bring those experiences to what you do now. It's an interesting dichotomy, especially when you were still working in the ER and building
in the
Brentwood
early
MD.
days, yeah. I was tired.
Yeah. Yeah. But we got you out. That was great.
Yeah. Because sleep is a priority.
It is. But also, you know, me personally thinking at 54, gosh, if I did live to 90, what would I want that to look like? You know, it's one thing to live to 90 or beyond, but I want to be, like you said, strong, vital, or full of vitality and able to still move around, still enjoy life. You know, there's a huge difference in that, and I love that that this book points people to that.
Yeah, I often ask people, like, what would you like the last year or two of your life to look like? And commonly the answer is, well, I'd like to be surrounded by people I love. I'd like to be experiencing new things. I'd like to be functional. I'd like to be, you know, kind of strong, independent.
Yep.
I'd like to have things that intrigue me. I'd like to be giving to people. I'd like to be pouring into. And I go, wow, that sounds amazing. So if you had all those things, does that seem like somebody who's a year out from dying?
Right. Yeah.
And like, it's a fair question.
Yeah. Totally fair.
Because in contrast, if you say, do you want to live to be 95 or 100 or over 100? Many people's response is, oh, no, I've seen what that looks like. I don't want any part of it. Like, but if the idea is you could live really, really well, would you still want to not go over 100?
Right.
And like, we observe that most people, by the time they get into their 70s, they're really declining rapidly. And, you know, laws of averages say that the average person is going to live to be around 80. And if you witness people over 80, oftentimes people's experience is, ooh, I'll take 80 good and then I'm out.
Yeah.
But like, if you have 80 good, are you going to, like, would you die? I don't think people who live really, really well at 80 die at 81. Like, at some point, you're moving towards the end and it starts to accelerate. But if the thinking is if you can reduce the decline curve, do you still end at the same spot?
Right. Right.
And if you can maintain a relatively high quality of life on that curve, and the energy is to keep it up, does it fall? And when does it fall? And so it's a really interesting thought exercise. I mean, it can go down some real fascinating rabbit holes, and there are some people who have some really radical beliefs about what is possible. I'm curious about some of those things. Practically speaking, I really do think adding 2 or 3 decades of vibrant living is achievable for many, many people.
Yeah.
If they have the right conviction, if they have the right commitment, if they have the right launch point, if they have the right team, the right time horizon, it's worth thinking about.
Yeah.
And for each individual to consider what that might look like for them.
And I think the point too is it's not quote unquote just going to happen. Like, you're going to have to implement things that you've talked about in the book that we'll go over.
No, totally. Like, what's going to happen is you're going to look like the curve of everyone.
Oh, yeah.
Which is, you're going to decline through your 70s and kind of like hang on, and then it'll be like, it looks the same.
Yeah.
Physically, you'll look the same. The diseases that you end up with will look the same. The last 6 months of life will look very, very same, and you will drift off to the end, much like the common experience. This has to be an active process. Like the aging process in chronic disease is actively pulling you into the earth. This is why elderly people who are not strong start physiologically and physically looking the same.
Yeah.
Hunging over, leaning, small shuffling steps. Like, it's like Earth is calling her parts back.
Oh, yeah.
But to be upright and strong and move through life and powerful and nimble, like, this is the sign of youth. You can tell by somebody's gait often how old they probably are, which is very interesting. You know, a young child skipping through the park. There's a reason aging people can't do that.
Yeah.
And it started with they stopped doing it.
Right, exactly.
And then eventually they lost the capacity to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's this interesting, like people sometimes ask me, they're like, so you want to like lift weights, like heavy weights until you're 100? Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Well, how are you going to do that? Well, I'm doing it now and I'm 50 and I just won't stop.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to do it every day. Because my feeling is I have the infrastructure and the wiring and the capacity to do it. And we very much are a highly efficient machine.
Mm-hmm.
And if I tell my nervous system and my biology every day that I need these muscles and I need this agility and I need this balance, I'm going to call upon it every day. And my body will say, oh, I guess he still needs it. So we won't lose it.
Mm-hmm.
And at 50, I'm more nimble and like I feel, I don't even remember I'm 50 until I see the number or I'm talking about it like this. But like it starts with, as we talk about in the book, really mindset and kind of like
the
really
belief that it's possible.
Yeah, like what really, is it even possible?
Mm-hmm.
Like, do I have to accept what is common? If you do nothing, it's high likelihood that you will end up with a common experience.
Mm-hmm.
There's outliers, you know.
Yeah.
There's the people who smoke and drink and live to be 109 and, you know, it's the cigars and the whiskey that did it. Like, I mean, I don't know. You
Right.
know, it worked for you, but it probably doesn't work for the average.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, it's an active process.
Yeah. I love that. Unfortunately, our healthcare system, as it exists now, is not set up to. You talk about in the book about sick care versus health care. Break that down. What does that actually mean for somebody listening? And you talked about this earlier with you being in the ER. That was clearly sick care.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a huge rant for both of us about the current healthcare model. So break that down, sick care versus healthcare.
I think, using rough math, approximately 100 years ago, healthcare looked like, don't die from something that kills you fast.
Mm-hmm.
It's childbirth, infant mortality, infections before penicillin, you know, basic things like community-acquired pneumonia or a festered leg wound from a scratch on a fence post that, like, you become septic. It's battle. It's conflict. It's you died from things that were heart attacks and strokes, and we don't have we didn't have the capacity to prevent fast killers. And we also lived in a world where, unless you were royalty, there wasn't abundance. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't even like, we didn't even have the capacity to imagine the consequences of ongoing chronic abundance. But what ended up happening with the advent of antibiotics, protocols about how to treat a heart attack, how to treat a stroke, we develop all these systems and processes and protocols and hospital systems and methodologies to hyper optimize for not dying.
Mm-hmm.
And I would argue we've done a fascinatingly wonderful job at expanding the average person's capacity to live a long time. I mean, life expectancy at the turn of the century was about 40 for a myriad of reasons. But people lived to be 100, but the average person, 40 was old.
Right.
And then all of a sudden now we're at 80.
Mm-hmm.
When you go back to the Roman Empire, the life expectancy was low to mid 20s.
Mm-hmm.
So for 10,000 years, we double. And that's running water and sewage. That's like fire. Those are big things.
Right.
And then over 100, we double. 100 years, we've doubled our life expectancy. And I'm taking this to the next step further, is although we're really, really good in this current state of things about treating if you're having a stroke right now, it's the safest time in the world to have a stroke right now than to be in a hospital being treated for a stroke, because we have tens of millions of patient year data on that one thing and all the nuances and best practice globally. But preventing stroke.
I was going to say that's reactive.
And this is the slow killers.
Yeah.
And so while we're not dying, we're living longer. While we're living longer and there's more technological advancement, we're getting mass agriculture, we're becoming more technologically savvy, so life is getting a little bit less physically demanding. Life is getting a little bit easier and a little bit easier and a little bit easier. Post-World War II, I mean, we've essentially been in 80 years of like kind of utopia. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's isolated conflict and there's been some threats, but like it's been kind of good times, you know, globally.
Yeah.
Infant mortalities are down. Third world nations are getting access to Wi-Fi. There's things changing where there's less and less suffering. There's still plenty of suffering, but so we're living a long time. We're living a longer time, and we have access to more things and stuff, including food. And so when you combine all these together, you get a net result of it's easier to live, you're living longer, and you have more access to more things and stuff. Mm-hmm. And so now humans are having to deal with, oh no, well, what things and stuff are good? What things and stuff are bad? And how much? And what can I tolerate? And we're seeing these chronic diseases. People didn't die from chronic disease.
Yeah.
They just died.
They didn't make it that long.
No, because you didn't live, exactly. You didn't live long enough to have the consequences of diabetes for 30 years. Mm-hmm. In our current state, most of our Medicare dollars, most of our healthcare dollars are dealing with ongoing treatment and ongoing consequences of chronic disease. And if they have a heart attack, we'll treat them. And if they have a stroke, we'll treat them. And if they need dialysis, we'll have their kidneys work for them. And like, we have all these things to keep people alive. And so what we have at scale is a sick care model where you never really get better. You just don't die.
Right.
And that's a real problem. Mm-hmm. It's a higher level problem than dying at 20 from something ridiculous.
Yeah.
But it's still at scale now. It's a real problem. And people are looking for the healthcare system and asking, well, I want to get healthier. What should I do? I don't know. Eat less, exercise more, you know, maybe some generic canned responses. You go to the Cleveland Clinic and say, hey, you're the best heart hospital in the world. Yes, we are. Great. What do I do to avoid heart disease? Well, you know, here's some canned answers. Well, what else can we do? Well, do you have chest pain? No. Oh, okay. Have you ever had a heart attack? No. Well, come back when you do. Right. Because when you do, we're the best.
Yeah.
And like, thank God we have them. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you have the means to get there and like we have, and we learn from them, and then their best practices go across the globe. And like, again, they just don't have an infrastructure. And then we use a third-party system with insurance, and insurance is designed to collect premiums and then scrutinize payments. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the model. Bring it in and be very, very careful about what goes out.
Yep.
And it's only useful if you're sick enough. Like, people are like, oh, well, I already pay for health care. No, you pay for sick care.
Yeah.
Does your insurance card pay for your lifetime fitness membership? Mm-mm. Your Whole Foods bill? Your chiropractor, your massage therapist, your psychotherapist? Does it? No. It pays for pharmacology. What is pharmacology? And what are these are disease management.
Yeah.
It's not preventative.
Right.
There's no money in prevention. The current system and the current model, there are no incentives that are aligned with a health conscious person who wants to get healthier to go into a sick care model and expect to be anything other than have their diseases managed.
Right.
And I used to get really angry about it. And I've come to a place of it just is what it is.
Yeah.
you know. That's why I pound the drum of advocacy. You know, the loudest person in your band needs to be you.
I love that. That's amazing.
Well, this is a reactive system we have.
Yeah.
And unless you're raising your hand and rattling the cages and asking questions, and if you're not getting the answer isn't stop asking questions. It's ask different people, ask more people. Go find your people, go find your team.
Yeah.
And that's a big theme through the book. It's a big theme of how we practice, whether you want to come see us or not, that doesn't even matter. Like, go find your person, go find your team who can help you advocate, who is aligned with you.
So in that same, leading into the next question, which is you talk about in the book about being a health asset manager, similarly to a wealth advisor or financial asset manager, where they're managing wealth and finances, and they're somebody's who for that part of their life. Talk to me about how you view yourself as a health asset manager for our members.
This came out in a conversation several years ago as I was trying to explain to somebody, so what do you really do, Aaron? Like, what? So you're out of insurance, but like, what do you do? How is it different? And I just said, I'm a lot like your wealth manager, where you meet with this person and you have a current state of the union, your current assets, liabilities, insurance. You also have a certain set of challenges. You have a certain set of goals. You have a certain time horizon. You have certain inputs and outputs. You have a certain risk tolerance. You have a certain fear factor. And you put all that together and your wealth asset manager goes, okay, cool. Based on everything that you're telling me, as your fiduciary, I have an ethical obligation to do what's in your best interest. I'm going to map you out a plan to maximize your potential while managing risk along the way. And based on new inputs and outputs and new goals and new convictions, we may alter your plan so that we remain aligned with your long-term goals while honoring risk management and watching blind spots.
Yeah.
That is exactly what we do in our practice. Every member, although there are similarities and there are buckets and there are like tendencies, everybody is unique. Even within a family, a husband and a wife can be markedly different in terms of like, how offensive do you want to be? How defensive do you want to be? How curious are you? How ambitious are you? How patient are you? What is your current, how much are you suffering currently? Like, what's the time horizon to get some of these results? Of the results, if you could just have one, which one would it be? And like, really truly taking the time to understand what the individual member is trying to achieve with their health. And sometimes, Jen, it is just discovering what they want.
Yeah.
Because this is the first time in their entire life that they've had a health asset manager ask them questions like, what would you love to be able to say this time next year about your health? What, you mean like anything? Yeah, anything. Well, so you're going to give me a platform to have a voice? Yeah. I mean, it's part of the equation. I have the things I want for you, but like, they're your goals. It's your life, you know? And you want to achieve that 40-pound weight loss and you don't care how long it takes, as long as it's forever. That's a different plan that if I've got 9 months to do this and I'm not going any longer, that's a different plan.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's not driven by me. And I don't do the work. I mean, I come up with the plan and I support, but the heavy lifting is the individual.
Yeah.
And so I think that advocacy, that kind of fiduciary spirit of being a health, like considering, you and I consider an individual's greatest asset their health.
Yeah.
We've all been told
100%.
time. And time is very, very valuable, and it is up there at the tippy top. And arguably, it might be 1B.
Right.
But 1A, in my opinion, based on my experience, is your health.
Yeah.
And people say, I don't know, Aaron. I don't know. Time's pretty valuable. Time without health, I would debate, is not all that valuable.
Mm-hmm.
It's not nearly as valuable as time with health.
Right.
And so to me, it nudges time a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I want them together, which is the whole spirit behind the book. Like, live a long time and feel great.
Yeah.
I want both.
Both.
It's an and, not an or.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like most people's observation is you either have health or you have a long life, but you don't get them both. So I would rather have here for a short time, but a good time, you know? Because living a long time implies that I'm going to be on the back end really suffering.
Right.
Well, it's not or.
Mm-hmm.
I really believe you can have and. I think you can live a long time and feel amazing.
That's beautiful.
And, by the way, if I'm wrong and you can't add 30 years and you only add 18, you win.
Mm-hmm. You do. You win.
You know, like anything in life, it's never about arriving. It's about the journey. It's about who we become along the way. It's about the kind of person we become and how that messages to the people that we love and care about. And anyway, that's kind of how I came across the Health Asset Manager.
Yeah, I love that. So one of the chapters in the book is about metabolic health and nutrition. This is a heavy chapter because it's got a lot of actionable things in there. But one of the concepts, and you've taught me, is that the holy grail of health is optimized blood sugar. Why is that so foundational, and what are people getting wrong?
It is the heaviest chapter in the book. I tried to make it not heavy, but it is.
Yeah.
That being said, I labored over the language and the storytelling without cutting corners, but also just kind of straight talking.
Yeah.
I think it boils down to most people, including myself, until I began really digging into this, and many of my physician colleagues aren't able to answer some really fundamental questions, like, what is the primary role of your body? Like, why do you have a physiology? What is the primary role of your biologic orientation? Like, what is its North Star? And the answer is to not die.
To keep you alive, right?
Like, nothing else matters if you're not here a minute from now.
Yeah.
And all of our physiology and neurobiology is around supporting this idea. I got to stay alive. Preserve life. That's thing one. I think the other thing that we don't think about as a species really a lot, certainly not as medical providers, is, okay, well, if our goal is to stay alive, do we have a preference on how we do that? Turns out we do. And it turns out when your goal is to survive, there's actually only one thing you can have as a preference, and that is to do it in the most efficient way. Otherwise, you run the risk of dying because of inefficiencies. Mm-hmm. So, like, inefficiency in and of itself could be the thing that ends life. Mm-hmm. So we have been hyper optimized to not die, and to not die in a way that is the easiest path to sustain life. Which means anything that is deemed unnecessary by our physiology will stop being supported and stop being nurtured, and it will atrophy. This is why an 80-year-old that can't lift a weight It's not that they can't lift a weight because they're 80. It's because at some point along the way, they stopped lifting weight. And then they lost the capacity to lift the weight because they weren't getting the signal that it was necessary. And if it's not necessary, your body's not just going to hang on to 12 extra pounds of lean muscle. That's energy rich, and it's being wasted.
Yeah.
We need constant feedback loops we still need it today? Yep. Okay. I'll check in again tomorrow. We still need it today? This is why things that you can't like solve for weight and fitness once and then be done. Because the moment you start getting new signals, you will get new outcomes. And I'm not quite sure most people ever think about it that way. And when it comes to metabolic disease, I think it's also essential to understand the root word there is metabolism.
Yeah.
So these are diseases of metabolism. Well, what's metabolism? And I would say metabolism is the process of taking potential energy in the form of food, consuming it, and turning it into usable energy. That is the metabolic engine. The way we stay alive is by converting energy in one form that is not usable into usable energy, and we do that primarily through diet. Okay. So that's metabolism, and that's of the metabolic. But what's metabolic disease? Metabolic disease is when that process of converting potential energy to usable energy becomes dysregulated. When we lose efficiency. And it turns out metabolic disease doesn't exist when you don't have abundance. Because you have diseases of scarcity. You have starvation and malnutrition and low muscle mass, low bone mass, birth defect, childhood mortality. These are diseases of scarcity. And in that model, nobody's got diabetes.
Right.
Not anybody. Diabetes, by definition, is the inability to regulate blood sugar in a normal range. Well, if there's nothing to eat, the only way your body will make blood sugar is through the liver. It will not make more because that's a waste.
Yeah.
And so we've solved for these scarcity things in many parts of the world. There's still unbelievable suffering with this, which is just ridiculous to me with today's technologies. I think people will solve that quickly.
Yeah.
Hunger, clean water, illiteracy. These are things these are grand challenges that technology, I believe, will soon solve for with the proper funding. There are organizations that are doing these things that are doing some really amazing work. But what we're left with is a nation where we have, in America, we're looking at upwards of 70% of U.S. adult Americans have metabolic disease. What in the world? This is insulin resistance, prediabetes, diabetes, energy dysregulation. And it is very multifactorial. It is extremely complex in terms of socially, economically, culturally, biochemically. There's a lot of complexity. But it comes down to we are taking in too much energy and too much low quality energy, and we are not adapted for surplus. All of human history till 100 years ago, we dealt with the same things. Just try to get to your 30th birthday and don't die. And seemingly overnight, in the grand scheme of human history, and it's really been since 1950. When you really drill down, obesity rates at 1900 were about 1%. 0, 1. Which meant throughout human history, the only people who were overweight or obese were wealthy or royalty or some form of surplus. They had abundance. From 1900 to 1950, roughly, the obesity rates in 1950 were 5%. Still, not much, but a 5-time increase in 50 years.
Wow.
We've now gone from 5% to we are well over 30 and approaching 35% of Americans, adults, are obese in 50 years. Childhood obesity rates. Don't even get into all that. I don't address it in the book. It's a separate subject. But it is grim if we don't get a hold of this.
Yeah.
And it's lots of energy coming in that is not being well managed. And of the energy coming in, much of it is very poor quality. Processed foods, lots of like food that wasn't 100 years ago, like new foods. We just haven't had time to adapt to it, and I don't know that we're going to be capable of it. And we're demonstrating that diseases are flaring. So, metabolic disease to me is the gateway to almost everything people want to avoid. And when you drill down on metabolic disease, the holy grail of health is your body's relationship between blood glucose and insulin. That really, to me, is the most we could get everything else right, and if we miss insulin resistance, it feels unlikely to me that we're going to have meaningful improvement in the future.
That's amazing. It's such a huge pillar of what we do here, from the way we screen our members with lab work to digging into their physical activity and their health habits. So thank you for writing such a robust chapter. It's just so important.
And by the way, let me just say really quickly, if you're just listening to this or you decide to read the book, my hope is that you don't become overwhelmed, because it is overwhelming.
Yeah.
My hope is that you say, man, I can see how this is a big deal. I want to remain curious about what this means for me. And just be curious.
Yeah.
And start to think about what this could mean for you and where you can have meaningful conversations with people who can help orient you and can help shape the way you make decisions. Namely, find your team.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. So let's talk about the big three killers. This is a theme throughout the book. And those are heart disease, cancer, and dementia.
Yeah.
Why do you talk about hunting these conditions versus just waiting for symptoms to appear? Are there certain screening tests that people should look for?
Yeah, well, yeah, there's a lot. I think we don't have to wonder, like, oftentimes when I'm in a room speaking to a group of people, I'll say something like, everyone in this room, the highest probability of something taking us off the earth is heart disease. Now, if we drill down on each one of you, we might find some unique risk factors based on your family history, genetics, whatever, where you might be more at risk for something else. But on average, the most likely thing for you and I, Jen, is heart disease. It's the number one killer of humans. And number two is cancer. And number 5 is dementia, primarily Alzheimer's. It's just, it made sense to me in the early days of like, wow, well, if we could really extend people's life, what would be a useful approach? Well, let me start with the thing that's most likely to kill you. Where are we with heart disease? And what are the things that accelerate unstable atherosclerotic plaque formation and the ruptured plaque, which causes heart attacks? What are the things that are driving that? And we became maniacal about what is creating the atherosclerotic process, what is accelerating it, and getting really, really clear on what those metrics are. And then creating a dashboard where we establish baselines and we're following that over time. And there are things like blood pressure, your LDL particle number. It's about your LP little a. It's about your fasting insulin. It's about your relationship with blood sugar, your triglycerides, your HDL levels. Is there enough risk factor to warrant further baseline investigation, like fancy imaging? Do you need a calcium score? Is that not enough? Do you need a Clearly study, which we talk about in the book, which is at this point the most interesting and fascinating and exciting cardiovascular imaging that I've come across. There are some new things that are on the horizon, but it's still too early to kind of talk about them.
Yeah.
But I think we're just getting started on the George Jetsoning of medicine. Mm-hmm. For you youngsters, you have to just go on YouTube and look for George Jetson. But yeah, I mean, AI, nanotechnology, getting real-time feedback. I don't talk about this in the book because we're not there yet, mm-hmm. but like, there's some really interesting convergence of these technologies and our understanding of what we in an ideal world should be mapping. So yeah, same thing for cancer. Yeah. I mean, as a man, the number one cancer I'm at risk for is prostate cancer. Mm-hmm. And it's not even close. Breast for you. Like, where are we on that?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I mean, ovarian would be really scary, but let's don't miss breast.
Right.
Like, we'll work our way there, but common things happen commonly. And like, we start with the commonest things plus or minus something specifically that a first degree relative might have, mm-hmm. where it might be suggestive there's an inheritable risk factor that is unique to you. So cancer, matter of fact, let's not get too distracted on that. But then dementia.
Yeah.
What is going on with Alzheimer's? For 25 years, we've been chasing plaques and tangles, and it's getting worse. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've been quoted as saying, I think it's one of the largest failures in all of medicine over the last 20 years.
Wow.
In that, we don't know much more than we did, and we've spent who knows how much researching.
Yeah.
Turns out, some of the thought leaders in this space are really leaning towards a diabetes type 3. Mm-hmm. That this may, when it's all said and done, be insulin resistance at the brain. Translation, metabolic disease.
Right. Which is why it's so important.
Unbelievable. Mm-hmm. But from where I'm sitting, my response is, I can't believe that. My response is, look at there. Another example of metabolic disease being the most, to me, it is the health crisis on the planet.
Yeah.
I mean, adults across the world, if you have metabolic disease, insulin resistance, you are sprinting towards heart disease. We are sprinting towards increased risk of Alzheimer's dementia. We are sprinting towards feeding cancer. By the way, what is cancer? Cancer is a tumor. A tumor is uncontrolled cell growth. That's a high energy state. We just got done saying that our job is to stay alive in the lowest energy state possible. How does cancer grow? It consumes resources. Mm-hmm. What resources? Metabolic resources like glucose, like energy. And when you have an abundance of energy, there's nothing to strangle or cross-check or hold accountable or compete with a tumor.
Yeah.
I consider cancer a metabolic disease.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing.
So, and again, not that insulin resistance causes cancer, but if you're prone to cancer and you're going to develop cancer and there's nothing you can do about it, you don't want to be living in a hyperglycemic, hyperinsulinemic environment where when that cancer decides to turn on, it has unlimited access to energy.
Right. Snuffed out.
That's a problem.
Yeah. Well, in that vein of cancer, I was personally behind in my colonoscopy, probably because I was afraid of the process.
Yeah, a lot of people are.
And you helped me through that. What do you say to members that are like resistant to these things that are offered to them to get screened and checked? How do you walk them through that?
It's a really good question. I'm sympathetic to people because I've learned humans are not random. And in my younger days, in my more idealistic days, I'd feel kind of like ineffective or non-impactful or rejected if people didn't take my advice. But what I've learned is people have their reasons. And sometimes they're not aware of their reasons, actually. They're being driven by their subconscious. They're being driven by something that they don't have eyes on. It's a blind spot for them. But nonetheless, there is a reason somebody doesn't want to get a colonoscopy. For me personally, as a provider in a one-on-one situation, I tend to just be curious. Like I notice you seem resistant. Like, and I can appreciate, that's where you are. Do you have any insight into where that resistance is coming from? Are you afraid? Are you afraid of the anesthesia? Did you have a family member who got a colonoscopy and they had a bad outcome because they perfed their bowel? Do you have, are you afraid of pooping the night before? I mean, you heard it was bad and you don't know what to do. Are you having symptoms and you haven't told anybody?
That's an important one.
Where is the friction? So I often talk about auditing for friction. And so this is something that I would be curious about the friction point. And then I can't talk anybody into anything.
Right. It's their choice ultimately.
Yeah. It's totally their choice. My conviction is that I need to make sure I'm doing all that I can to communicate clearly so that they can make an informed decision. And as long as they're aware of the risks and I've clearly expressed, then I'll honor their decision. I may not agree with it, but there's a lot of things I don't agree with. I'd be mad all the time if I got mad at everything that I didn't agree.
That's true. Wouldn't be a fun way to live.
And by the way, things that I used to get mad at, I've changed my mind on things. So I've also learned that for them in this moment, this is their decision and they have been informed and they have their reasons and they're okay with the risk assessment.
Yeah.
Isn't what I would do, but I still love them and I'm still going to care for them. But I would try to get to the bottom of the friction. And oftentimes it's I don't know. It's just not something I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah.
And they just wanted to be able to say that. No, I get it. It's I don't think it's abnormal to think that's weird. But let's have some real talk about, in your mind, it's probably about 150,000 times worse than it is in real life. Essentially, it's a disruptive night of sleep the night before because you're cleaning out and you take a really cool 20-minute nap and then it's over. And if it's clear, you're good for 10 years. It's the gold standard. And if they still say no or not yet, okay, I'm going to keep talking about it, but we can move on. Yeah. That's how I would handle it.
Is there anything else you want to say about the big 3 before we move on?
I would say there's a really, really famous book that has come out from someone I really admire, Peter Attia, called Outlive, and he calls them the 4 Horsemen. And I kind of chuckled when I was reading his book because I was like, man, we don't know each other personally, but we do similar things in similar ways and in many ways.
He also has the same hairstyle that you do.
Yeah, we have the same barber. That's confirmed. And then we try to do the same thing with our facial hair. But we came to identical conclusions based on the way that we practice our medicine, but with different nomenclature. I have always said the holy grail of health is, insulin sensitivity, normalized blood sugar, so that you don't fuel the flames of the big 3, is what I call them. In his book, he calls the 4 horsemen metabolic disease, cancer, dementia.
disease.
And heart disease.
Yeah.
I make a distinction that above the big three is the Grail. Because the Grail is fueling those in many, many ways. If someone said, what is the most important thing I could do to increase the probability of living a longer, more vibrant life, that is a kind of an actionable, it is actively keeping eyes on metabolic disease.
Yeah.
With a layered in specific actionable screening test for heart disease, cancer, dementia. Ongoing into the future.
Yeah.
And look for trends and wait for more convergence of fancy technology that might give you better eyes. I think that is the single greatest thing you could do that is actionable in terms of like your health management to increase probability of higher quality and longer length.
Yeah. Well, thank you for, that chapter, which, we're all going to die from something, and what you've taught me.
Nobody's beat it yet.
Right.
There are some people currently in the world who believe that it's beatable, and it'll be an interesting experiment to watch them. And even if they're not successful at conquering it, it's unlikely that we don't learn things. And so I'm interested in learning, and so I'm intrigued. But yeah, nobody has conquered death.
But we can work toward delaying, and I love that. That's one of the big concepts that you've taught me in my journey through, my health journey, and also my career working with members. Is, we're never going to prevent fully. Maybe we will down the road. I don't know.
Well, there's too many variables that I cannot control to say that my goal is prevention, because that leaves anything but prevention a failure.
Yeah.
Where delay is far more manageable and measurable and demonstrable and repeatable. And if we mess around and do delay really good, we might just prevent.
Yeah. Ooh, I like that. That's great. That'd be an outcome I would hope for.
Yeah.
One of the key concepts in the book is about health multipliers.
Yeah.
Which we've done a podcast on this as well, and I love this concept because we talk about how things can stack, right? Like how things stack. The momentum multiplier mindset that you described completely changed how I think about health goals. Can you explain that approach and why it works better than a traditional goal setting? Why does the health multiplier approach work better?
Well, I think in order to answer that, it might be answered by just simply explaining why health multipliers matter. And what, maybe even more, what is a health multiplier?
Yeah.
And simply a health multiplier is 1 unit of energy or effort in, and more than 1 unit of result on the back end. And the more output units you get for every equal input unit increases the multiplying capacity of that behavior. And as I have kind of surveyed and looked for patterns, which is really kind of mostly what I do, a pattern was really beginning to emerge, and that was people who ultimately make really significant positive impact in their current and future selves in terms of health tend to map through one of 3 buckets, and that is optimizing the way they feed their body, the way they move their body, and the way they recover their body.
Mm-hmm.
And that covers some majority segment of impactful behaviors. And when you double click on each of those buckets, you then begin to see further patterns where, of all of the things that you could do to improve the way you feed your body, there tend to be a handful of things that really are the 80-20 rule. You know, what 20% of dietary effort and feeding your body effort creates 80% of the impact. Where you do, and if you just kind of take this like 80-20 rule in reverse, where what 20% of behaviors will move the needle 80% of the way, and you're doing it across the three most important things, you're doing 20%, 20%, 20%. This is highly efficient, which happens to map with our physiology and our kind of biochemical orientation. We start noticing more than a 20% positive impact.
Mm-hmm.
And you create momentum,
mm-hmm.
which helps you feel more confident in leaning in further into those, which then creates even more. And I don't know if you want to go into the individual ones, or that's a line of questioning for a little later. But basically, taking a health multiplier mindset is basically like a really detailed way of saying, keep the main thing the main thing.
Mm-hmm. The boring basics.
I mean, we are physical creatures
Mm-hmm.
who occupy physical space, who have a physical body, require energy to stay alive, require efficiencies to do it in a way that we can manage downside. We have to move our body through a physical space, and in order to do it safely, we have to have a certain level of strength. And so we have to output.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to feed our body more than just staying alive. We have to feed our body based on how we're output. You know, an NFL player doesn't continue to eat the same when he's out of the league.
Right.
I mean, he might, but he'll look a lot different.
Mm-hmm.
So adjusting our inputs based on our outputs. And then once that's figured out, there's this other thing like, okay, cool, you've done all this output, you need a recovery. Because you have to manage wear and tear.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really fascinating, the interconnectedness of these.
Mm-hmm.
And people say, well, which one do you start with? In my opinion, it doesn't really matter. Just pick one.
Yeah.
Which one are you most curious about? Which one actually do you feel most confident in? Well, I'm a good super sleeper. Cool. Let's see if we can tinker with that just a little bit and take some of that momentum and pour it into the thing that you're next most curious. The thing that you're most resistant to, we'll save on that one. We'll come to that one when you have all this tailwind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I've had a bad relationship with food my whole life. Okay, cool. We're not going to like ignore it, but like, let's fix sleep. You're a good sleeper? Great. Then let's fix how you move your body.
Mm-hmm.
And slowly start introducing in a diet the things that could be the most impactful thing for you, where just 5% of your attention might get a 60% return. Again, that health where can I swing one axe and more than one tree comes down?
Yeah.
And you and I have been able to do this enough times where we see like, oh my gosh, there isn't a clear path for everyone, but everyone has a clear path.
Yeah.
Like, you just got to find it.
Yeah. Well, we touched on nutrition because that is a separate chapter in the book. But one of the health multipliers that you talk about is strength training. Pretty bullish on strength training.
Yep.
And I know you love lifting weights.
I love the results.
Yeah.
The actual act of lifting is hard.
Yeah. You don't love doing it, but you love
This morning, there was probably 17 minutes of my hour-long workout where there was 0% enjoyment.
Mm-hmm.
It was awful. But now I'm glad I did it.
But you did it.
But I did it.
It's essential as we age. Do you see, and what are the differences in the patients that you see that strength train versus don't?
People who strength train are stronger. They don't generally weigh less. Mm-hmm. They're just stronger. People who strength train on a regular basis tend to be happier.
Mm-hmm.
people who strength train on a regular basis tend to feel they tend to live more congruently in their physicality.
Mm-hmm.
Again, they may not be satisfied with where they are comprehensively in their health, but there's a connectedness in general that you begin to feel with your body when you start forcing your body to spend time at the limits of its capacity.
Mm-hmm.
They tend to be less depressed. They tend to be higher functioning. They tend to sleep better. Tend to be more optimistic. They tend to be more motivated to achieve other things.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I noticed different about them in the short term. In the long term, they tend to ward off some of the chronic diseases that plague us as we start to lose lean mass, called sarcopenia, as we age.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're probably, not probably, but they are more metabolically flexible.
That's a good word.
Mm-hmm.
More metabolically resistant.
Mm-hmm.
Not resistant. Maybe resistant also, but resilient.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think the data and the research would say, in our current understanding of science, there's probably nothing in the next 20 years that will be able to be demonstrated as a more impactful singular behavior to adopt in strength training.
Mm-hmm. So,
of all of the things that are going on, and the buzzwords and the supplements and the thises and the that's and what we know, if you have an ambition to live a long time and be strong, at the foundational level is strength training.
Yeah.
It is non-negotiable.
Mm-hmm. And I love, right now, there are some influencers out there. They are PhD trained, which I tend to follow more than just like a general influencer on the internet. And they're females, and they are banging the drum of strength training for women.
Oh, yeah.
And, getting out of this mindset of cardio.
Yeah.
Cardio is not bad by any means, but more of a strength dominant program, and lifting heavy.
Yep.
So what do you say to a female member of yours that you're trying to encourage to do strength training, and they're like, well, I don't want to get bulky? That's a real thing for a female, because I think they see the effects of strength training in men who obviously, and we'll talk about hormones next, but they're a lot different hormonally. But how do you relay that fear in a female? What would you say to somebody that's like, yeah, doc, I get it, but I don't want to get bulky?
It's not going to happen.
Right.
No, I mean, this is kind of like it's a false belief.
Mm-hmm.
The only women who are getting jacked are on anabolic steroids.
Yeah.
And they want to be that physique.
Mm-hmm.
They're pursuing it. I often tell my women, this is kind of a little bit of a Wenzelism. I'll sometimes say to my female members, when you're at the beach and you see a woman around your age or whatever, and you're like, dang, girl's rocking it, based on like her physique, she lifts weights.
Yeah.
No exception.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When we all sit down and watch the Olympics and we're looking at the 100, 200 meter sprinters, male and female, and we're like, geez, they lift weights.
Mm-hmm.
Those muscles are long and lean and twitchy, and they get trained every day, unless they're in recovery.
Yeah.
And they're feeding those muscles, they're training those muscles, they're recovering those muscles.
Mm-hmm.
Men and women. This is not a male sport.
Yeah.
This is a human sport. And women have been done a great disservice, in my opinion, by the early days of kind of Venice Beach bro science. Lifting is like for dudes and treadmills are for the ladies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm excited when I'm in the gym and I see less females on the cardio machines.
Yeah.
Long term. Now I'm not saying they're not doing a warm up, but like they're at the squat rack.
Yeah, cardio has its place.
Yeah.
A treadmill, steady state cardio, it has a place in a recipe, but it's not going to get you where you want to go.
Right.
Assuming you want to lift, and to be very, very clear, vanity metrics are real and they matter. We all care about the way confidence and self-esteem.
Sure.
But it's not just vanity metrics.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the vanity metrics are kind of like the extra, the metabolic benefit, the being connected to your body and noticing you're doing powerful things. I mean, I just think of you and your journey.
Mm.
You coming in the morning after a great workout the night before. I mean, some of the first things out of your mouth are like, I flipped a tire. I ran a hill. I did a really hard thing. I didn't think I can do it. I didn't want to do it, but my trainer said, no, do it. You're strong enough and you can do it. And then I did it. And now all I can do is think about how awesome it was that I did it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't measure that.
Right.
Like what that did to you. Because like, if I could do that, what else can I do? It starts like momentum begets momentum.
Yeah.
And women deserve that same. This is a human experience. Like as a species, we like to see progress. We like to see momentum. And lifting weights is objective. Oh, I did 5 pounds. Now I'm doing 7.5.
Mm-hmm.
I am objectively stronger.
Yeah. I want to know that number after I deadlift.
Yeah.
What did I get up to?
Yeah. No, it's I grieve when women have a belief system that weightlifting isn't for them.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever the reason, I celebrate that I'm seeing less and less of that.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, anecdotally, I think the message is getting out, and I love that there are women who have found their voice, and they have the knowledge, they have the credentials, and they've created a platform to speak to women. I think it's one thing to hear a dude like me say like, no, ladies, go lift. It's like, okay. But when a female, as a powerful, feminine, authoritative figure can come to you and say, this is essential, I think it just lands a little different.
Yeah.
But it's the right doctrine.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, women lift weights.
Mm-hmm.
It is not just for bros.
Yeah.
It's for humans.
Thank you for clarifying that for us females out there.
Well, I do my little baby part, but this is being strong is a human thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So switching gears, one of the chapters in the book is on hormones, and I've loved walking through the journey with you to discover hormones and how they fit into Brentwood MD. I love how passionate you are about them, for men and for women. It is unfortunately a misunderstood topic. I think it comes with a lot of, for lack of a better term, fear. I think that's getting better, but it does happen. So why is it so important, and what do you wish people knew more about hormones?
It in the book, it's the second most technical chapter.
Yeah.
If I could wish one thing on this topic at the highest level, it would be for people to realize hormones matter.
Mm-hmm.
They are in large part what create the vitality of our youth. And then they decline. And for women, at menopause, they disappear. And in a world where we don't have the capacity to measure them and replace them, well, then we wouldn't even be having this discussion because we wouldn't even know that it's possible. But it is possible. And thank goodness, hooray, science.
Mm-hmm.
We now have the ability to measure, trend, line up those trends with someone's experience, to make decisions on if replacing is correct and how to replace and how to manage that over time and follow it over time. And what I would say is that as a continuum of what we've been talking about, like this physical, the human experience is physical. I mean, it's spiritual and emotional, and like there's some other elements, but there's a physical component that cannot be escaped.
Mm-hmm.
And the basic infrastructure of our physical body is muscles and bones and tendons. They need hormones.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they got big. That's how they got strong. They've served us in our youth. And now, when we're trying to say, how can we play the back half to delay chronic disease, namely insulin resistance, and physical decline, how do we remain strong? Well, lifting weights can get you so far, but the reason lifting weights is important is it's the input to create the signal.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have hormones, you don't have the signal.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do the weights and you have the hormones, you got the input, you got the signal, but if you don't eat enough protein, you don't have the building blocks.
Mm-hmm.
You can get this 90% right and still not achieve the goal. And this is where we go sideways, because we lose sight on what are the essential. And like these other things, I'm not saying they're bad, but don't miss the forest amongst the trees. Like this is like, you have to move your body, you have to load your body, you have to have an optimal neurohormonal environment, and you have to feed it, and then you have to rest it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a demo crew, and then it's the construction crew, and then it's more demo, and then it's more construction. And the construction has several workers. It has hormones, it has amino acids, it has sleep and growth hormone and testosterone, and and then it's recovered, and then you do more demo. And then it's this cycle, and this is how we maintain our infrastructure, our building. We chip away the bad stuff, and we replace it with new stuff that's strong.
Mm-hmm.
And hormones are a critical element of the skeletal muscle infrastructure. And that's just the muscular benefits, not to mention the emotional side of things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are feelings?
Mm-hmm.
In large part, they're hormonally driven. Mm-hmm. Dopamine, serotonin, estrogen, testosterone. Like, they create a feeling. And through our youth, we have some of these feelings that begin to feel, we don't know it at the time, but when we start losing them, we're like, I don't feel as good
Mm-hmm.
as I used to. Well, what does that mean? Your hormones have changed. Right, the hormones, that component that's being contributed to by the hormones comes back to your baseline.
Mm-hmm.
We always say hormones done right don't make you someone you're not. They make you who you are,
Mm-hmm.
but not currently experiencing.
Right.
And when you're like, I feel better, but I feel kind of weird this way, that it just means, okay, we haven't got the recipe just right.
Mm-hmm.
I think, to your question, I think the big take-home point is it's deeply complex. It is wildly controversial, but hugely important. And I just don't know how to map my 90 as the new 60 in an environment where the hormones are suboptimal.
Yeah.
It feels unlikely to achieve my ambitious goals for my members. And my conviction is that people deserve the opportunity to have that conversation to see if it's right for them.
Mm-hmm.
And You may decide it's not right for you through a thoughtful analysis, through co-decision making with your physician. But if you're not at least given that opportunity, maybe you don't have your right team.
Yeah.
I have deep conviction.
Mm-hmm.
Men seem to get away with having that conversation more often than females. Complex, multifactorial for the reasons why this is. But ladies, if you deserve to be able to have this conversation with somebody who's informed about you specifically, your goals specifically, and what your biochemistry looks like,
Mm-hmm.
and what the benefits versus the risk might be for you. And you need to be able to process that for yourself.
Yeah.
That would be my hope.
And you talk about in the book, and we've done podcasts about this too, the Women's Health Initiative. And I'm grateful for you to challenge that study for females and to really break it down and be like, gosh, what did it really tell us? You know, it didn't tell us what I think mainstream media and then mainstream physicians latched onto, which created a lot of fear around hormones, especially for women.
Mm-hmm.
And we are complex, you know.
Yep.
Talk to me, you know, some of the things you talk about in the book are the Women's Health Initiative, but also like women are maybe dismissed for their symptoms that can be related to hormones, specifically thyroid. You know, we talk about that a lot with our female members of, hey, let's see how you're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Could it be related to your hormones? And this is why. You know, that's a huge part for a woman's journey. But the Women's Health Initiative, what's your feeling on that?
Well, I have created a lot of content around that, and I think it's the most significant study ever done that very few people know about, and even fewer truly understand.
Mm-hmm.
For men and women. But I don't know that we can talk about hormone replacement therapy or even the Women's Health Initiative without first understanding the historical context and the historical significance of that study. And we could spend an hour just on this and still be left with, I think we've done an hour-long podcast on it after doing you and I, a deep dive on that. But for the purposes of this discussion, prior to 1990, not 1909, 1990, there had never been a government-sponsored, randomized, controlled, placebo trial on women's health outside of childbearing. I went through a lot of education, and I was never presented with that fact.
Mm-hmm.
When we began our journey deep diving into this, that singular variable really threw me off. Like, I was in a state of disbelief.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to imagine how underrepresented women are in health, and how historically they've just been an afterthought. And even after women made tremendous strides in terms of equality, even up to 1992, essentially the health community looked at females as a female male. And the only thing that differentiates them is they make babies, so we'll just study the childbearing aspect of them. Otherwise, we know everything about the human.
Mm-hmm.
Boy. And I think there's a huge disparity even to this day, time of this recording. We've made a lot of strides. Women are now gaining more voice and more power and more attention. But there still remains a huge void. We just don't know.
Yeah.
But stay tuned. This goes back to advocacy, having your voice, having your team, helping you. As we learn more about the science behind what makes women uniquely different, besides the fact that they hold the greatest human superpower, which is creating other humans, their differences don't end there. And so this trial was basically an attempt to address a growing population of women who had discovered bioidentical hormones and felt like they had a new lease on life. And the government was growing concerned that women were finding this new fountain of youth, basically, and was like, oh, well, we actually don't know if it's very safe, so we should probably do a study. Which the intent, I think, was great. Like, it was a massive trial. It was supposed to go for 20 years, tens of thousands of women. They created these different arms to test different things, and they were measuring specifically different outcomes like hip fractures and heart disease and breast cancer and stroke, and like there was several outcomes. It doesn't matter for this discussion. It was it was designed really well at a high level, but ultimately the challenge is these women were given synthetic, conjugated, which means mixed from, some of them were like conjugated from like a pregnant horse's urine. Like just, what are we actually testing here? Like the sources of, I'm air quoting for those that are listening, the estrogen, the progesterone, and the combination groups. To be very, very clear, none of those women got estrogen. They got a synthetic variant that they were calling estrogen. None of those women got progesterone, the stuff that comes from your ovary and then the placenta and progestation that creates a viable pregnancy through the term, maintains pregnancy. They did not get that. They got synthetic versions of the two. In the end, they stopped the study because one of the groups had an increased rate of stroke. I think without reviewing the numbers, I think it went from like 10 per 1,000 to 12 per 1,000. And based on the math, it was statistically significant, so they stopped. But I think people should know the placebo had 10. The group that was stopped had 12. Again, one stroke is too many. But when you really look into this group was not screened for appropriately. These are, on average, there were 70-year-old women that had obese. They had other high risk for stroke. Smokers. It was, although the endpoints and high-level structure of the study, the intent, the purpose was well intended. The actual granular execution of the study, which anybody who studies, you immediately start critiquing. Okay, where are the flaws? Like, where are the weaknesses? And this thing is fraught with problems that should be scrutinized, that actually never have been scrutinized. What ended up happening was they stopped the trial, this arm of the trial, early. They said, somehow, still mysterious to me, estrogen ended up taking the fall. But when you read the literature, it's very clear that the synthetic progestins were the things that created the problem. Estrogen replacement therapy is dangerous for women. It causes stroke. Don't do it. Which then became hormones are bad. Don't do hormones. And then it stopped. And women have been suffering again, and in many cases unnecessarily, from a study that was well intended and timely, but really poorly executed. And a lot of women are coming to the realization because through their own self-advocacy or physicians who are seeing like, wait a minute. Our experience has been that as we study the literature, actually really done literature, they're not dangerous. There's a handful of women that need to be thoughtful and careful, and somebody who's appropriately trained will screen you for the safety things like strong family history of hormone-sensitive breast cancer, active cancer, don't do it. Like, so some obvious things. Women don't have to replace their hormones. But women who want to be strong and powerful and live a long time and delay chronic disease have a much lower risk, a much lower chance of achieving that live a long time and feel great without an optimal hormone environment. The risk of osteoporosis and breast cancer, brain health and dementia. Turns out being hormonally barren is very dangerous. Even heart disease. And we've known this forever. Women premenopausal, almost it's cardioprotective. Matter of fact, if you have a family member where there's a female who had a cardiovascular incident prior to 55 years old, that is an independent risk factor called early heart disease.
Yeah.
Why is that? What's significant about women under 55? They're premenopausal. Turns out when you look at postmenopausal data versus age-similar male counterparts, women vastly outpace men in heart disease on the back half. Why is that? Again, multifactorial. It's correlated, but like it's a very strong correlation. And then there's evidence to suggest that optimal hormone therapy is cardioprotective. There's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of unnecessary suffering. Beyond the Women's Health Initiative, I don't think the Olympics and Venice Beach culture in the 80s and 90s, and then the Balco scandal in baseball in the 90s, where so many people were listed as taking synthetic anabolic steroids, did much to clear the air. There has just been for probably 30 years a general sense that hormones are bad and they're dangerous and don't do them, and it's all natural. It's also natural to decline and die and look just like everybody else. Like, but the bigger question is natural optimal? And is it something I am comfortable with? And if it is, God bless. Do your thing.
Yeah.
Like, follow the curve and you can anticipate what it's going to be like. And if that feels right for you, as long as you're informed, I'm not here to critique your decision. I'm here to critique whether you've had enough information to make the right decision. Then you make your decision. Because we all have to manage our risk versus benefit. You know, crossing the street has risk.
And I feel like women that I've worked with in our practice need reminded of those long-term benefits of hormones.
Totally.
Because they are kind of working in the background sometimes. And we may forget how well we feel when we take them.
Yeah.
And so we stop. And it's like, what are you doing? Trying not to be critical of why, but also like, it's for your brain, your heart, like your bones. It's important.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a reasonably smart guy, but like I have dumb smart guy moments all the time.
Right.
I mean, we're all capable of what our potential is, but we're also capable of being doofuses, you know? And I think as a species, we're all prone to forgetting.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why humans repeat history.
Yeah.
We have all these lessons and wisdom, and then we forget.
Yeah.
I often say being a dad is like one of the cool things in the early days of being a dad was I was at a park swinging with my oldest, and he was 1, and he was just like, it was one of those like frozen faces of a smile, like it was like his first time on a swing, and like he just seemed to lean into it even more like the bigger we went, and I was having so much fun, and it dawned on me, I'm like, oh man, when I was a kid I loved the swing. And I'm seeing him enjoy the swing, and I thought, whoa, this is kind of like a weird experience right now. What if one of the hidden benefits of being a parent is you get to remember things that you love?
I love that.
Isn't that cool?
That is so cool.
And it happened at like, Jack was like 1, and he's now 15. I'm like, it continues to, he helps me, and William helped me often. Not as often as when they were little, but like, oh my gosh, I love mint and chip ice cream. I haven't had mint and chip ice cream in 25 years or whatever.
Yeah.
This totally random things. And I see my kids doing something and they're like, oh, I love this. I'm like, I used to love that too. I see Sarah with the boys and doing crafts, and like, oh yeah, I used to love doing these kind of things.
Building Legos. Yeah.
It's unbelievable. So like, and I can't remember which philosopher, I don't know if it was Plato. I think it was Plato. Might have been Socrates. Said all learning is remembering. And I haven't spent enough time really thinking about that all the way through, but it's kind of catchy. I wonder what percentage of learning. I know in my own experience, it's like there's a lot of like, oh yeah, I forgot. You know, it's like a whole new experience all over again.
Yeah.
It was in there, you couldn't access it. So I agree with you. I think women deserve to be told. I think they deserve to be reminded. And my hope is that more and more people would create a voice around that, and so that more women can lean into this aspect specifically for them.
We deserve to live a long time and feel good. Who doesn't?
Humans, it's our only lap around the track. We only get one.
That's right.
And my conviction is you might as well give it your best crack.
Yeah.
And not everybody's going to be into it. Not everybody wants it. Some people will want it but aren't willing to do the work. Some people are willing to do the work but they don't have the capacity. Like there's all kinds of, but like better is better.
Yeah.
And like giving your best effort is the goal. And I think better is possible for most people.
Yeah. One of the key books or chapters in the book is mental fitness and purpose. And there's talking about stress management in there, which is really a key. But you have talked about, which is kind of a provocative topic, of never retiring. And I'm interested to learn what effect of that have maybe you've seen with people you work with, members you work with as they age. Is there a difference between those that, because we work with entrepreneurs, their families, business owners, their families, what is the difference between somebody who has that mentality of not retiring versus somebody that has kind of hung it up?
When I say never retire, I'm referring to the traditional idea of retirement that was really brought to light in the Industrial Revolution.
You work for one company your whole life.
You put in your 20 years, you get the watch, and then you're done.
Yeah. The
idea that you can work really hard, and if you're lucky enough and you work hard enough, one day you get to not do anything. And that is the ideal outcome, to wake up and do nothing. And it's pervasive. It's very attractive for many people. But it's a false promise. Mortality rates within 12 months of retiring in that sense, where I have nothing to do, are staggering. It's my observation, not just with humans, but with any living thing. If you send it out to pasture, the body follows. I don't know if an ant or a bird has consciousness, but I know they have a rough life.
Yeah.
And they don't live a long time. And like, it's like eat or be eaten, and then they're dead, like very quickly. Those things' job is to survive and only survive, and then it doesn't do very good at that, and it's like brutal. Humans have the same kind of like don't die wiring, but they're a more elegant creature. And what I have noticed is that we need purpose. And when I say don't retire, it just means don't retire with the idea that doing nothing is the goal. I think a far more powerful way to view retirement would be, it's the point at which in my life I get to do that which I want to do and only what I want to do, and I spend somewhere between 0 and very little time doing anything that I do not want to do. That sounds really good.
Yeah.
And for people, when they really find their passions and the things that really fill them with life, to the outside, it looks a lot like work. They're busy, they're getting up early, they're getting to it, they're sacrificial, they're like, but if you ask them, oh, there's nothing I'd rather be doing. I just don't think it's probable to live a long time at a very high level, waking up and having no one counting on you. You looking forward to nothing. That begins to look a lot like a very non-sophisticated creature who doesn't have any immediate threats. I heard somebody say, you start to appear really attractive to death.
Ooh. Yeah.
Like an easy one. And what they want to do is every morning have death look at them and say, whew, that one's going to be too hard. We'll go find someone easier. And behaving in a way that would demonstrate, you're not even close to that in my last year of my life. And the longer you can maintain this like hard to kill,
Yeah.
it's unlikely that you'll be killed early. And it's kind of a playful way to think about it, but have something to do that makes you feel alive.
Yeah.
And not do nothing. And that's the retirement element.
Because you don't want to live to 90 or beyond and not have a purpose, right? Like,
Matter of fact, I appreciate you bringing that up.
There's no reason to improve your health and want to live a long time if you don't have something
Yes.
to live for.
And many people that I have interacted with who are like, you know what, man, I'm not interested in living a long time. Like if I get to 80, that's all I could ever ask for. And if you really dig into it, there's some other milestone that signifies I made it. And then the whole goal is either a number or an impact metric or a child to a certain age. Like there is no like lasting goal. It's very like definitive and like tangible. And what ends up happening for a lot of people in those situations is they get it and it's awful empty there.
Yeah.
And then you run the risk of regret that I could have layered in with incremental more effort or thoughtfulness along the way, a totally different back half.
Have you thought about that for yourself?
I think about it all the time.
What does life potentially look like for you and your family, but for you after Brentwood MD? Fly fishing?
Very possible.
Golf?
Very possible. Yeah. I'm staying open and I'm learning more about myself. And I'm learning more about what interests me. But I will tell you, it'll be filled with life and activities that revolve around things that I find the most interesting and that I find the most energy from. And so we'll see what those are.
Yeah. Stay curious.
I think so. Yeah, I've always been curious as a little boy. I always tell my kids, like, before the internet and before having technology, we would road trip across the country in a station wagon, and I would legitimately just stare out the window and daydream. I've always been very, very curious.
Yeah.
Even at 50, I still find myself very curious, and I ask a lot of questions. It's great now because we have amazing tools where I can satisfy that curiosity very quickly and determine whether there's nothing here, or whoa, this is really cool. Like you can go really neat. You know, AI is really cool with that. And for a curious person, the technologies that are available are fascinating. Yeah. Because like there's nothing I can't learn. Right. And I like learning. So.
I'm listening to a podcast currently, and the speaker, the person that's being interviewed, is talking about midlife and beyond, and just offering advice for people in their back half. And one of the questions he asks is, what new things have you learned? Like, because I think that as we age and get older, some people might lose that curiosity and lose that passion for learning.
Yes.
And just kind of be okay with the status quo. And that's something that I hope to achieve up to 90 and beyond, is always learning something new. I mean, what new thing can I learn?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of it for sure.
Mm-hmm. If you had to say maybe the one thing you wanted readers of your book to take away from reading 90 is the New 60, what one thing would you want them to walk away with?
That if you, as you think about the idea of adding 30 years to your life, 30 good years, and you find yourself feeling like maybe you want to believe it's possible, and that you quickly and strongly believe it would be worth it if it was, if that is true, then I would say, don't be afraid to try to go get it.
That's so good.
Yeah. It's right in front of you, and it may not be perfect, and it may be a bumpy road, but it's right there. Mm-hmm. We have arrived where it's more possible than ever, practically, to execute on this idea and get measurable, meaningful return.
Mm-hmm. That's great. I think we'll end it there.
You're in charge, Jen. You're secretly in charge of everything.
As long as you know that, then it's all
I've
good.
known that for a long time.
Thank you for spending the time with me today.
It's fun. This is actually the first conversation like this I've had about the book. Yeah. You know, I've been head down. Like,
I hope it was fun.
It was really good. It was a cool journey to kind of go through and make me reflect. I didn't know any of your questions, you know, so it was just kind of like.
Where can people find the book?
90isthenewsixty.com or on our website, brentwoodmd.com/90isthenewsixty.
Great.
It's available on Amazon.
Good.
Just search 90 is the new 60. The number 90, the number 60.
That's great.
Yeah, it's a whopping $14.99. And there's a Kindle version, like an ebook version, if you're interested, for a few bucks.
So you'll be starting your cross-country book tour soon?
Unlikely. But for those that do find the book interesting and they buy it, I sincerely hope you enjoy it, find it useful. Some of the chapters you might have to read 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
And if you like it, leave a review. And you could always reach out to us and let us know what you think, and we'd love to hear about it.
Any famous last words?
Ooh. Coming back to something we touched on, and that is, even if you don't determine that it's worth it or that you want to pursue it, the longevity piece, this is your only life. And I think these types of exercises, no matter the outcome, are useful. I continue to take these journeys personally, and I learn something more about myself. And there's something uniquely beautiful and fulfilling about learning more clearly who you are. And even at 50, I don't comprehensively know who Aaron is. But I know him better than I ever have. And there's a lot of me that I still don't fully get. And it's okay if I don't ever arrive to this full understanding, but the better I can know myself, the more satisfied I tend to feel day by day, and more at peace, and more hopeful about the future. And I think this could be a really cool exercise for someone.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
You're welcome, Jennifer.
Until next time.
All right, thanks. Thank you so much for your attention. It's the most valuable thing you could ever offer me, and I don't take it for granted. You can find out more about today's episode and all of the other resources we have at brentwoodmd.com. Be sure to check out all the other content we've created by searching Brentwood MD on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. If our content has ever provided you with value, it would mean the absolute world to me if you subscribed to our show and left a review. This helps us ensure more people just like you can find our content so they can begin their journey of optimizing health. To learn more about the concierge services we provide our members, visit brentwoodmd.com. And now for the obligatory disclaimer. This podcast is for general information only and does not constitute the practice of medicine or the giving of medical advice, as no doctor-patient relationship has been formed. The content of this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should seek the advice of their own medical professional providers.